Hey guys, we're back again with the Couch Confessions, and before I get into the next episode here, go ahead and hit subscribe below to get a nice email notification every time I drop some new content like this. Thank you so much in advance. This episode, we're back with my single "Drinking Alone." This came out in February of this year of 2019. Released it with a music video, which we'll get into, but I think the song, its history, its lyrics, all kind of started when I had my first alcoholic beverage at the ripe old age of 14 years old, and kind of led me to the creative space that I, arrived at prior to writing the song. I began writing. I kind of had this idea after jamming to some records. My fiance was out of town, was jamming to some records right here in this living room. Just listening to Pink Floyd, listening to Dark Side of the Moon, had a whiskey in my hand, switched up to some wine, and you see that lyric, see it seep into the second verse of the song. But that's really where I started writing. I thought, this is just something I do. I chill, have a few drinks, listen to music. I've kind of done it since high school. But this was at a point where I was just writing the song in a more lighthearted way. It's just, it's a jam. I'll kind of throw some country influences in there. It feels right. Do some things with guitar that I've never done. And again, it was kind of at a more innocent point in the process. I just got the lyrics down. And once again, kind of a lot of songs recently I've been writing are flowing out of me. And I love this feeling because it just feels right. It feels like it should be the way it is. I'm not second guessing lyrics or chords or things like that. But I started with a chord progression after I had kind of written the lyrics. I'm kind of a lyrics first guy. I don't know why. I'll write those because I think the story is important to me, and then I'll work the music around that. And I had done some really experimental things for me with the music on this particular track. Again, started with these lyrics, and I was just thinking, my kind of mindset for years was there's nothing better than just having a few drinks, chilling by yourself. I like to be isolated sometimes and in a melancholic state because it leads to some great inspiration, whether it be for poetry, I want to write a novel someday, songs, of course music, but again, this was all just me thinking of this as a positive, right? And then I had this pivotal moment last year. I'd gone home to see my high school's very last football game, and that night just got really drunk, had too many, essentially. Just had way too many, and waking up the next morning covered in your bodily fluids at the age of 27 years old, it just hit me, and I had some conversations with my grandmother and with my fiance that maybe this lighthearted relationship I had with alcohol was something worse, was something more serious. And right at that moment where I had that realization about my relationship with drinking, that's when the song, for me, took a more serious turn. Although it started as just, some jam to write about having a few and, chilling out with. And that's when the bridge came in as far as the lyrics. The first two verses, I'm talking about back in high school when I started drinking heavily. I would just go in my basement when my parents fell asleep. My dad had some beer down there, usually from Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever holiday. I would have a few of those, have some of the, 5-year-old wine that was down there too. Get drunk, chill by myself, maybe call a few girls up, say, yo, I'm drinking, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was cool. I thought that was normal, which I allude to in the video. I'll get into that. But, then kind of moving on to, that's how I used to think. There was nothing better than that. Chilling down there, getting in my zone, doing my thing. And then the second verse, kind of get to a later point in life, more like present day. I was writing it, only last year, only in, kind of the middle of last year. And realizing that I'm still doing the same thing. I'm just chilling, listening to records, switching on my beverage a little bit. I allude to beer in the first verse, and then kind of step my game up to wine and liquor in the second, which, it seems people turn it into this hyper-masculine thing, your tolerance and stuff like that. But again, something that seems cool, seems good, but is actually a problem. And you come to realize that, or I came to realize that. again, jamming out to music, and that was specifically written. I was just sitting, sipping some whiskey. My fiance was out of town, and jamming to Dark Side of the Moon. Those lyrics came out, and then I represent that in the video too. But yeah, just kind of the persistence of the same problem that I realized was, present in my life. And like I said, last year, it kind of all hit me at once during that moment, that night where I got a little too intoxicated. I'm just trying to think of the lyrics. Now I sit down with some whiskey, some wine, play music from another time. Shit, if I had the luxury, I would do it every night. And, I think some of us think this way, and it's kind of like alcohol where I'm from, my hometown of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Alcohol is kind of like the cash crop, I've been starting to tell myself. And not that, I'm a victim to my surroundings and society entirely, but I kind of grew up in this. It was one of the, main things to do, especially as a teenager and then in college. And, yeah, you just kind of fall into your groove, and sometimes it's not a positive cycle. Can be very negative, even though it feels comfortable. And this song was really just me thinking about that big time. Like I said, first in a lighthearted way, but then I realized how serious it was. But again, back to the second verse. If I had the luxury, should I do it every night? Spin a vinyl record, play music from another time. No, it ain't healthy, but baby, it ain't a crime. Yeah, it's kind of just me deflecting. There's nothing wrong here, and that goes into the lyrics right into the bridge. I might be a heavy drinker, a recovering alcoholic, an addictive personality, or whatever you want to call it. You could throw whatever label you want on it, and I tried to do that. Internally, I try to tell other people that, but at the end of the day, it's a problem. That would be the one good word for it. And there's not necessarily a really positive resolution in the song's lyrics, but more just, I have this person in my life now who checks me on things like this, and who's also there in a more healthy way, right? They say like drinking alone, that's never a good sign, but my resolution, if you will, in this song was having somebody around to do this with and make you realize when you're reaching an unhealthy point. So, toast to her, toast to my fiance, as always. But also, right around the time I finished this song and then finished the production of the song, I decided I really need to cut back on drinking a lot. Although this is a big part of my past and my routine, sort of at this point, it's becoming toxic and it's worrying people in my life, and I don't want to harm myself or others, essentially. So I made the decision to kind of cool down a lot. And just, refrain from getting the way I did that night back in my hometown. Sonically, though, that's kind of the story behind the lyrics, and, the chorus morphs at the end after the bridge into, come have a drink, sit next to me, have two or three, kind of in a more, like I said, healthy light. You're not sitting by yourself, having drinks anymore just to kind of drown your sorrows, and that's essentially what we do, or to escape, or whatever it is. But it turns into a more social thing. And then, like I said, in the real life version of me outside of the song, it turned into, I don't really need this anymore. I have somebody great in my life that supports me emotionally, so I don't need to just drown my pain whenever I'm feeling down. So that's really the gist of the lyrics there, which I love. They came out very simply, but really encapsulate a lot of information, which I'm trying to explain here in this 15-minute video. But sonically, though, I really started out, I think, with the four chords you hear on the verses and the chorus, adding little riffs and licks on the piano in between, kind of Billy Joel inspired. Like, he's a big influence of mine, but I do it in more subtle ways as far as incorporating him into my music. But on this particular song, I threw it in there, and it really just reminded me of that presence in as far as my musical influences. With the guitar stuff, that's where I really challenged myself once again on guitar. This whole album, the Truth Is Naked album, which I'll be releasing this spring, really just trying to do things with not only guitar but other instruments that I never tried before. I'll kind of start chronologically, but get into some other things. With the guitar intro, that was something that I developed like later, just kind of messing around in the studio. And I wanted to play it on electric, which I did later in the song, but I said, let me try this on the acoustic and see if it's the nice kind of like country influenced intro to the song. And I love how it turned out. It's a great segue into the piano and that developing kind of slow moving verse with the lazy drum hi-hat, and then the piano chords, of course, that drag a little bit. And there's a big bass sound that's very rock bass, but I want it to be super present too, to kind of drive everything. And that's really kind of the intro into the first verse, second verse being the same. The chorus, I wanted to have a little more movement as far as the bass, the piano, and just driving a lot, smooth, again, kind of a country feel, kind of, that kind of country sorrow. Those are the country songs I love, honestly. The more sad ones, and when you throw the influence of alcohol in there too, that's always a good vibe, I think. But yeah, then later in the song, the second verse kind of persists the same way, with the chorus being the same as the first one. The chorus trails off, and like I said, I added these little piano licks that I liked a lot as transitions, and also just adding to the multitude of melodies that are in the song. There's those piano melodies, there's the verse and chorus lyrics and vocals, of course. But then you get into a couple other layers of melodies now, which this is where I really challenge myself. I try to fit a lot in kind of less than 5 minutes, which I did here somehow. Working with my engineer, Melvin Durrell, we really tried to make things a little more compact and not kind of lull in the song at all. But then there's this breakdown. We hear the ding, ding, and then hear the big guitar, the electric guitar with the distortion. And I love that. And one of the things Melvin suggested to me was kind of where to start on the guitar with the two solos on those breakdown portions. And that ding, ding, meow. Really loved how that turned out. And then that goes kind of seamlessly into a different melody on the harmonica, something I never played in the studio before. I just bought that harmonica at Ross, the store, for like $5. Started learning to play a little bit of stuff on there, some simple notes, and eventually I developed this melody that went perfectly with the key of this song, Drinking Alone. So I bring that in there. I love how that worked out. And then it's that sad harmonica that goes right into the very down tempo and equally sad bridge. Worked out perfectly. And one of my friends, Jay Cannon, another artist, he was saying, you really do that breakdown portion of the song very well, and I loved how that turned out in this one particularly. But yeah, I thrive in that moment, kind of slowing things down and then making that breakdown sound really cool, really mellowed out, and kind of build to the resolution of the song and the story at hand. We went over those lyrics, of course, but just a real slow piano and building right back up into kind of like a fermata, a pause in the music, and then coming back hard back into that chorus where I sing it with a little more intensity and kind of stretch it out with just repetitions of it, kind of riding out the chorus, and then adding new lyrics in to change kind of the feel of where I'm at present day with the whole situation of the story. And then closing it out with the harmonica, then another electric guitar solo, which I love the one at the end even more. If you kind of get all the way to that point, I love that electric guitar solo. I really challenged myself there and did something I never thought I could. And I loved the outro harmonica too. Kind of similar melody, but it's perfect for an outro. And I sing this lyric that if the truth is naked, you got to strip it down. I had this thing where I wanted to say naked in every song on the album. I didn't do it, but at the time that's what I wanted to, so I added that. And again, you see in the video some of this story play out in a much more literal sense, where you kind of get a glimpse of me acting in the way this song kind of was inspired by, but some of my history in a dramatized sense. So check out the music video too. You can find it on this page as well. But this has been another episode of Couch Confessions on my song Drinking Alone. Thank you so much for tuning in. And, come back soon. I'll have another one of these on the next song I released, kind of in chronological order here. We'll see you guys real soon.